Morning, my name is Tommaso Ceccarelli and I'm a senior researcher at Wageningen Environmental Research, which is part of the Wageningen University and Research in the Netherlands. My contribution today would be around the digital solutions for food system transformation. The focus is on shocks and stresses which affect production areas serving urban consumers, urban areas. And shocks and stresses, in my understandings, belong on the one hand side, shocks to fast onset phenomena processes, such as floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, etc., and to a certain extent also the recent pandemic. On the other hand, the stresses are more slow onset processes, such as typically drought, which is further triggered by climate change. So whatever the type of shock and stress, what matters for the production areas, for the sourcing areas, also matters for the urban consumers. And any solution towards mitigation or adaptation would positively affect both poles of the food system, of the value chain. Now, illustrative cases that I have in mind, a couple. One is Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where as Wageningen we're having a big program called Benefit, which includes climate resilient agriculture, includes provision of improved inputs, food nutrition, gender inclusion, market linkages. In Ethiopia, we have been trying to work out intervention together with the Ministry of Agriculture and other institutional actors towards the support to the pandemic response. Particularly, we have been looking at the digitalization processes, although we have been observing that at times these digitalization processes tend to favor specific segments of the society, of the consumers, reaching, in some cases, the high end of the consumers, so sort of e-commerce solutions for direct connection to the more endowed consumers. But the problem there, of course, is to go beyond this and favor social distancing, functioning of value chains, reduction of transaction costs for all the consumers, all the actors in the value chain. Another case where we have not worked as yet in terms of implementation, but we are designing a system is Dhaka in Bangladesh, a big conurbation of over 60 million people with very different sourcing areas, very much affected by floods and drought, where we are trying to go beyond what is the reality now in terms of digitalization of food system and food chains, reality which is mostly about developing fragmented solutions, which could range from farm advisory to credit provision, to supply chain management, and again to e-commerce or procurement. What we are trying to do is to bundle these different solutions together to respond to the integrated needs of actors in a value chain and a food system, of their quote-unquote ecosystem. This is something which has been done or is done In some cases, I'm thinking about the Taobao villages in China, and this experience is now trying to extend to Africa and other countries, but with a notion that the co-design of the system itself, and hopefully maybe the management, the ownership of the system, should very much be in the hands of the actors, possibly the most vulnerable actors in the same value chain, or their intermediaries. So the two poles of the small producers on the one hand side, with their organizations, their cooperatives, etc., and on the other hand, seemingly aggregations of consumers, shortening the value chain, as we said, reducing transaction costs, and ensuring all the safety and distancing conditions which are needed nowadays. There are, as I said before, attempts and efforts to put together, bundle together these digital solutions. One of the nicknames used is a super platform, but as I said before, the effort is to not only ensure that this works technologically and technically, but that this is a process of social engineering where as I said before, the most deprived segment in the food system are having a certain degree of ownership and control over these systems. So these are not purely commercial corporate solutions. Moreover, the effort we are trying to do is to move from platforms towards digital twins. So what do we mean with digital twin, which sometimes seems to be a bit of a buzzword? We really mean that we would like to add a number of predictive and modeling capabilities to an integrated digital system, whereby we do not only look at operational issues, which are fairly important, of course, as I said before, supply chain, etc., but we add prediction capacity precisely regarding the shocks and stresses that I've mentioned before, capacity of predicting them and seeing to what extent these will affect the elements in the food chain. This can be now done from a technological perspective. We have enormous opportunities to build into the system, for instance, big data, including Earth observation data, analytics, modeling capacity of different sorts, scenario building tools, strong visualization tools for user interaction, reporting, delivery to the last mile kind of users, farmers and consumers, and also feedback system, which are very important to feedback to the system, the user's kind of perspective and information. So technologically, as I said before, we have, I think, a lot of tools and options which can be used. It's a matter very much of moving towards this, from this technological perspective to a perspective of social engineering, where, as I said before, communities and their technical intermediaries and institutional intermediaries are brought together to develop solutions which are sustainable and which are co-owned by the actors in the food system. Thank you.